So I'm in the NFT space since 2018. I've been basically supporting artists since the past 6 years, and we recently launched a minting platform with NFT studios called Buildtree. So we've been dealing with artists a lot, so that's a topic that is really, really interesting for us. That's all about me. Now, maybe a quick round of intro.
Hi, I'm Malcolm, as you can see from the sign behind me. Yeah, I've been a photographer for the last, 1984, 40 years. Give my age away there. And I've been in the commercial world, and I've been in the crypto world since 2020 and worked on a number of projects. And my real interest in this space is incorporating art and NFTs, as well as bringing crypto to the real world. And I think that's where I've asked a lot of questions in the projects I've worked on. So that's my real interest, and the art side of things, and photography mainly.
Hello everyone, I'm Nuno Cortão. I'm one of the founders and CEO of Zarta. Before I started my career in the blockchain space around 2016-17. So I was the head of blockchain at Accenture. We used to do, or I used to do, blockchains for traditional players, banking industry, airspace, airline, loyalty points. I've explored plenty of solutions around that space, and then I joined with my co-founders and we kickstarted Zarta. I was still on Self-Focus, creating their blockchain division for telecom operations, and then we kickstarted Zarta with my co-founders. I end up in the art segment by chance. Okay, so I don't come from the traditional art background, or I'm not particular. I used to say that I have the sensibility of a rock, and so I have some difficulty with the art segment because of that. But at the same time, I love data and I love to build things. So we created a solution dedicated for financing of NFTs, and we end up with one of our most successful use cases around providing loans using art NFTs as collateral.
Hi, I'm Mark Madruga. I'm a designer for 30 years. I start as a product designer in industrial ceramic, and then industrial design and graphic design. So at the end, I ended up making video and ambient design, and now the majority of my work is around web, and I teach also in a school of art for 12 or 13 years now. So I think I'm in the middle, like the contact with design and art, and I really fall in love with the blockchain in 2017. 2 bull runs, about to be 3 bull runs.
We know what you've been through. Awesome. So it's kind of cool because we definitely have some people that are more into art, some that are more into tech, and you will see that we had already a lot of debates around that topic before, right? Before the panel. So I would like to start directly with this really strategic question, which is, I've heard some of you guys talking about a bubble. I know there's been a lot of excitement and a lot of fears around crypto art and NFTs. So let me ask you, and maybe we'll start with you, Malcolm. Where do you see the intersection between blockchain and art heading in the 5 to 10 years? Do you think it's something that will last, or it will just disappear?
I think it definitely will last. I think the use case for the NFT as the technology behind the art form, and I think if one looks at art, whether it is in a digital format or in a real world format, photography, whatever it might be, the NFT is the use case that can be used to validate that artwork, and I think it also can make it more accessible to more people to purchase it. But I think there needs to be a clear understanding that there's an artwork and there is the code and the software that writes or validates what the actual artwork is. And unfortunately, NFTs have been labeled as profile pictures. That's what most people see them as. And an NFT is far more than that, as we've heard in so many times in discussions, even the discussion earlier talking about NFTs for properties, etc. And it's the same thing when it comes to artwork. Artwork is something that, in the traditional sense, would go into a gallery and would be curated and from there worked on or looked at, and people would purchase it. Whether in the decentralized space you want to go and curate it, but it needs some validation, and it's the artwork that needs to be either be bought or give value. The NFT is just purely there, in my opinion, to validate that there's an actual artwork there and that it actually exists. So I think there's a lot of future for it.
So it's mostly a vehicle.
Sorry?
It's mostly a vehicle.
Yes, it's a vehicle. I think blockchain is a vehicle, and it should be seen as that. And I personally think the whole blockchain space has been sold incorrectly.
And you, Marco, with your art background, how do you perceive this?
I agree with Malcolm. I think that what happened with the NFTs that were and still are associated with art happened in a certain circle, because by contact with the artists, when we talk about NFTs, is something that they really don't understand, and what they see about NFTs is some comic characters that they really don't understand how the hell it comes so far with such higher prices. Then you have suddenly this Beeple value of 69 millions for his NFT, and suddenly something that they don't understand. Now, my experience, what I see in a school of arts and with my contacts with artists, I also not only painters or sculptors, I also work with musicians. So, in the majority of them, the big majority, they are not into digital. So this is something that they don't understand. For example, this year in my classes, 2 persons didn't know what was the shift key. Press the shift key. What is the shift key?
How old were they?
20,
Oh.
20, 21.
Oh.
Second year. And in another class,
They are living under a rock. They are living under a rock, or
no, this is normal. In another class, nobody knows about blockchain. They heard about one student made an NFT. But what is the NFT? Once again, it's a comic character. The other friends, artists that I know, it's like, you must teach me. I want to make money also. So, but nobody really understands how the technology works. How I see the technology in 5 to 10 years, I think that must be really, really simple. I believe it will, because after, I don't call it a bubble, but okay, let's call it a bubble. What happened with the comic cartoons, with the comic characters? I think after any bubble, you have something from it, like the tulip bubble in the Netherlands. They become the biggest producer of flowers in the world, right? So I think that the technology will be very, very simple. For any artist, people that are not connected to the digital interact. I believe it will be cross-chain. The NFT will be all of them cross-chain. A blockchain can go down, for example, for a period, or could disappear. I don't know. It's possible. I think it's very important that there is this definition for all artists of having the separation between what's property, what's the authenticity, and what is the rights of use of each for the person that owns the NFT and the authenticity. For now, just for finish, for now, what you have in the NFTs is a small number of fields. In fact, of metadata. In fact, you can have a lot more. You can have infinite number of fields, but this must be used like a standard, because when you have a field, you must code. Artists don't code. So you must have all these things really made as a standard for all the artists to get out of this niche of art.
I saw you, Nuno, you were shaking your head. Maybe you have a comment about it?
I have a bit of a, not a contrary view, but a complementary view on this. I think NFTs work as a tool, okay? So let's go to the fundamentals. And they are a tool of, that helps to certify. And certification is very relevant. And Mark was here talking about there is a bubble that came from high value of characters, profiles, and etc. But I think all of this is kind of rooted and connected to the same pieces. When we are on the traditional art, I have no idea if I'm seeing a Picasso. This is a problem, okay? So when I'm going to a museum, I assume that I'm seeing a Picasso. But I have no idea if that's the real Picasso, okay? So that's an assumption of trust because I trust the museum, I trust the people that curated, etc., etc. When you are leading or touching digital objects, the objects are fully certified from scratch. And this is very, very powerful and changed completely the perception of value. And this also, so the technology works as a certifier of quality, something that I don't need someone to look and to verify for me. I myself can do it very easily. So that's point number one. And second, it also acts as a distribution layer. And we have bubbles or we have high value assets on all industries. We can go to baseball cards. Like, I have no idea why people pay $1 million for a baseball card. Yeah, that's completely, I don't like baseball. So that's, for me, it's not a relevant piece of an asset. There are people that love baseball cards. And baseball cards went to these kind of values because they accrued value across 50, 60, 70 years. So there was the emission of the cards, then there was the destroying of people that just told us baseball cards that were grails, that were rare, and they lost them across times. All of this was kind of a process. And so we had like 50 or 60 years, and now baseball cards or Magic the Gathering cards become super expensive because there is only one of those, or you can certify that that specific card is super well managed and with quality, etc. Blockchain brings the factor of velocity, of time. So I can sell an asset not for 10 people in a room. I can sell to millions of people. It's super liquid. People can go and directly bid on that. And so the time gets compressed, kind of, this is an analogy, and the value increases because of that. Because I know that I have a grail piece now, and I will have a grail piece that I can certify and that I can send to someone else in Tokyo, in China, wherever I want, very quickly. While on the traditional process, I need to call an appraisal, I need to ship that with proper management of temperature and quality, and I have to wait that the piece doesn't root across time. So the technology that binds all of this together brings a very high standards of quality to the underlying IP. And I think that's the most critical part and why art got so interested by this technology, because now we have IP, we can certify the IP, and we can share the IP, and we can distribute the IP, and we can transact the IP very, very quickly on a very liquid form with a lot of people looking into it. And that's very powerful in my sense. And just to conclude, Mark was telling about music. Music is a very good use case of IP. It was already digital. People go to Spotify, and music is digital. But the contracts that bind music studios and artists are all full in paper. So IP and payment and all of that is a very bureaucratic and very cumbersome process. When you have all of that removed, because the technology has value baked inside of the technology, with certification, with distribution, you see why the values can rise so quickly. It's just because the technology empowers lots of transactions. The same way that stock market got so quick because of the internet, or that the value of technological companies go to the roof because there is almost no capex and high very levels of distribution. So all of these are very abstract concepts, but when we go and we distill to the fundamentals, there is a justification for it.
Are you looking at validating the technology then, or are you looking at validating the actual artwork?
I think there is like the two avenues are going in at the same pace. So we are validating technology. So the technology is evolving as we are. There is problems. For example, I can tell a problem in the art segment that occurs from art segment is typically operates with lack of transparency. I know that this seems a problem, but this is a feature in the traditional art world, because you have a very low amount of pieces that are sold every year. Gallerists work and managers work so that the prices don't drop out of the blue. Now we have like a technology that brings fully transparency to the process. So the technology is being worked as we go to see if it fits the use case. And at the same time, the artists are seeing value, and we are validating the art of. It's a way for artists to monetize their digital assets. They are bringing and creating AI art, they are creating art by themselves, whatever, and they can certify with a proof of ownership, and at the same time they can sell it properly. So I think both of the two verticals are kind of going, and we are learning on the path.
And sorry, if you don't mind if I just on this side, if you're looking at it and the ease of producing this and doing it, the more you create and the more you do, the more you devalue the actual artwork to a certain extent. I would say, you know, if it's becoming so easy to become, you know, there's so many, anybody can create an artwork and anybody can create an NFT, and that's where the bubble burst. Yeah. Is because there were too many artworks out there. I don't know if that's a...
That's a very interesting point. That is, when things went to zero on efforts, what's the value of that? It's like ChatGPT kind of thing. Like, if you can write a text in seconds, what's the value of me crafting or using my time to do it? But in reality, I think the art world already mastered that a few centuries ago. Like, artists don't create pieces out of the blue. Even if they are very quickly on doing paintings, they don't deploy their paintings very quickly on the market so that they don't dilute their own value a long time. And so I think that the traditional art already knows that, and that's the reason why the best artists in the blockchain space have their value very high, Xcopy, Beeples, etc. Because those users are sharing their art pieces as they go. And they are also doing very small, like very big drops to create kind of distribution. Low value drops so that they can have a very big community. But the relevant parts are like with smaller.
I'd like to say something. I think what happened my opinion, what happened in the crypto sphere and all this thing about the NFT art with the comic characters and some artists that were associated really happened in a niche. And about the art, there is this question for a really long time: what is art? Anything can be art, really. So you have like Duchamp that proposed something to question that, and recently you have this banana on a wall. So if I can make this bottle of water a piece of art, then it must be validated. So art happens in certain circles that says, okay, if I say, okay, is this art? And if I say this is art, and if I have someone or something that validates this, in that circle, it will be art. Not for my mother, but my mother liked to paint also. But this circle will never accept the art that my mother did, and it's quite good, in fact.
You bring a really good point there, and actually that's a perfect transition for the second question that I had for you. Is that in your different answers, you mentioned PFPs, you mentioned these comic characters, and I think you mentioned some cards as well. But we had some sort of a nuance that appeared at some point, which were basically between actual art and collectibles. So let's not try to define what is art and what is not art today, but I have a feeling that basically during this first cycle of NFTs, a lot of things that were like just collectibles, that were absolutely not art at all, were considered or mentioned as art just because it brings some additional fake value to the asset. So the question that we were discussing right before this panel was around curation, around what gives some validity to art. So let's not try to define what is art once again, but do you think that in this kind of decentralized and completely open and democratic world of Web3, do you think we actually need curators in the next few years? I know it was your question, Malcolm, so I'll let you start.
Yeah, that's a tough question. Look, I think traditionally from an artist's point of view, and I do a lot of artwork as well, I've always had my art curated by a gallerist who would come in and curate the work, whether we want to open it up to the general public and people curate it for themselves. I think that they can do that. What I think can happen with blockchain and with NFTs is we can use that vehicle to allow people to put their work out there and let it be curated by the public and actually cut out the middleman to a large extent. Because I'll just give you an idea of an instance where the middleman takes a lot and takes a lot from the artist and makes it difficult. If I take a stock library for argument's sake, and I've worked a lot with them over the years, if I put a picture on a stock library, at the end of the day, I might get 10 or 15% by the time that image is sold or used in a commercial or whatever the case it may be, and I get virtually nothing out of it. And this means by using NFTs and the artwork, whether it be a digital photograph or whether it be a real world or a digital asset or whatever it is allowing the artist to be able to put it out to the public and do away with the gallerist who's going to be choosing curating the work. So yeah, I think they will fall away, but I think for something to have real true value, or possibly, you know, if you're going to be looking at somebody who's going to be wanting an actual artwork, a real world artwork, I think your curators will be necessary in that instance, but possibly, as you were saying, in the digital world, most probably not. But I think there's a lot of scope for artists to make a lot more money by cutting out the middleman in a lot of instances.
Maybe I can add something interesting. As I like to think on analogies, it helps. Like, we had media, and now we have influencers, and we have YouTube channels, and MrBeast, and people that are individuals, very bright individuals, sometimes with teams, sometimes alone, that are able to create their own fully audience. And so, if we look at the art on the same segment, I think that's a good baseline to see what's going to happen. So we have these new pieces, people can drop easily. Malcolm was saying, like, the cost of doing NFT is zero. So it's not zero, but can be also almost zero if we want, kind of. So anyone can express themselves. And then it's about the market and the public to define what's they value and what they don't. And so that creates a kind of a hive mind kind of thing. We have millions of people in real time deciding what they like and what they don't like. And they are deciding by the power of financial voting. If they buy something because they believe that it's going to accrue more value in the future, probably to resell, or because they want to collect. And I think this is a very interesting use case. Like 20 years ago, we didn't have memes, and now we have memes, and people talk on social media between memes by themselves. That's Gen X and maybe the youngers. I'm already being too old for that, but that's the reality. Like, the community and the cultural values evolve with time. I think that institutions will continue to appear. It's good to have really sophisticated people in the field, not only people that are trying to speculate and grift and somehow out of the blue they make something that's not art getting value. But typically those kind of trends die shortly. Like, that doesn't support long time. What brings real value? People that create for an ecosystem, create for a community, understand what they are doing, and they do it like day after day. Typically they are rewarded with longer term results. And so I believe that, and lastly, one relevant point, we with smart contracts, we can automate lots of things on this space. So we can have royalties. So the artists nowadays can benefit for having their pieces being traded in the markets in the future and getting some cut of that. That's very interesting. Like Picasso has pieces that are sold for millions and the family doesn't see a penny. So these are the kind of innovations that bring with this. This also has other side effects of this, and we can discuss, but my take is that curators will exist and they will continue to operate. The better ones will perform better, they will bring the best artists to work with them, and we'll continue, but we will have a kind of a consolidation. And then the popular vote, the human vote, the distribution, like this big funnel, will also help to curate and to craft what's the future of culture.
Well, art is not democratic. Art is very, very, very elitist. Very.
But couldn't that change?
I think that what is happening, it will be just simulated by the kind of art that exists now. This is great for the artists to cut the middleman, but at the same time, they need some type of promotion. This is great for someone that is inside of a hole that don't have any way to get out from their contact with galleries, etc. That is in the other side or in the middle of the desert and want their art to be recognized. It's great for this kind of people. But the artists cannot be in places centralized like OpenSea or Rarity. Because when you have more than 15,000 NFTs there, the majority of them, almost the 15,000, worth zero. And each day are more and more and more. If I place there my art, I don't know how the algorithm of the OpenSea will promote me. What I think it will happen in three ways. You'll have lots of markets that will be have their own curators, could be with DAOs, for example, that vote who they want for the artists that are inside that NFT gallery. You'll have like white labels for all the galleries, because all the galleries want to be part of this. This is strange now. It was strange last year, but the galleries want this to be part. You'll have new kind of art around this, like augmented reality and virtual reality exhibitions and interactive art that can react. There are a lot of things that are new, like for example the art, reactive art, with the value of the Bitcoin or with your biometrics. But the art that exists, nothing will change. It continue to be the same thing. You have the art fair for your kids. You have the art fair for your grandmother with this thing, and you have like this punk art in this gallery, and you have this posh art, I don't know what, on that gallery, and you still have always the laundry of money with art. So nothing will change. So I believe that will be three markets of art. You'll have the open source market, DAO market, and you have the gallery markets. I don't believe that OpenSea will survive much. OpenSea and things like OpenSea will survive more. The artists don't want to be, I don't want my art, imagine I'm an artist, I don't want my art to be next to the comic character, you know.
The thing is that we might be running out of time, so I have one last bullet to shoot, which is probably the best question. I mean, that's a really, really interesting point, but the thing is that most of these assets are not only art. As we said, there's a lot of collectibles, a lot of things that are just NFTs, but that have absolutely nothing to see with actual art.
Can I add something here,
yeah, please,
Mark?
yeah,
I think that's interesting. That is, like, I agree with you on a sense that OpenSea is a bit centralized, and that's the reason why we need decentralization, because it touches the core point, that is, I have no idea how the OpenSea promotes whatever they want. And so we have Manifold, that is a solution that's less known, a bit more niched, but it works on a different way. And so we will continue to have open seas of life. I can go to Vorten and I can buy a book, and at the same time I can buy a refrigerator. They are completely opposite. But then you also can go to very specific markets, just for example, super rare or tooling that is pre-designed only for artists.
The comic characters will still have their market.
Yeah.
It will not disappear. Each one will have their niche. It will be like always been. It's like Malcolm was saying. NFT is a technology, and the artists need this. Artists need this technology, and we will have some kind of new art, the interactive art, and the artists need new tools for this. The artist can't code, so you need to have a standard for NFTs meta. You need to have tools for them to be able to make this interactive art, and the artists really need this. And another thing that is very, very important, the artists need to be educated in art schools. Art schools are still a bit like it's living in the past, in the 19th century almost, right? So education is really, really important. Like this thing, the Mondays, Crypto Mondays, artists should have NFT Mondays, you know.
Yeah, and I think also in all of this, I do believe very strongly that there is a place for NFTs in traditional art and real world art.
Yes.
I know it's, you know, can you make something certain that it's an actual artwork? You can do that with NFTs, and you can do it with AI when that comes in as well, because the AI can read the information on the paintings and things and get clarity of. So there's a combination there, and I definitely think that you know, if I'm selling my artworks now, prints that I do sell, they will come with an NFT. They're not going to sit on OpenSea, but they are a validation. And if somebody sells that picture, it gets transferred with the NFT because that's the validation that is sitting in their wallet to validate that they own that painting.
This is very interesting because the NFTs will serve also, each time an artist sells a physical piece of art, he makes this certificate. Yep. These certificates must be now NFTs. But how you connect the NFT with the real art, with the digitalization of the art, and you need to have now digital authenticity that prove the artist. And in the NFTs, the metas, you must have space for the gallery that receive some percentage, and the artist or the artists. Could be more than one, could be collective. This is brand new. Everything is just being born.
Definitely. I mean, no auto-promotion, but that's a feature that is proposed on Build3, by the way, the platform we just launched.